Check. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, watchers, welcome to another episode of Stuck in the Middle podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Reflex.
I'm the other host, AK.
Hey, man. AK, welcome back, bruh. It's been 2 episodes since you left me deserted, man.
You sound like stop crying. You handled yourself very well.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it. Hey, did you have fun away, though?
I mean, yeah, definitely.
Where'd you go?
We're not gonna get into all that.
All right, my bad.
That's my business.
We're just gonna see you to vacation.
Yeah, type of thing. You know,
Without
it's
pay.
much needed.
Without pay.
Without
Vacation
pay.
without pay. When I
Yeah.
take vacation, it's with pay.
You're paying yourself, right?
I cut it from your check. Welcome to another episode of Stuck in the Middle podcast. This is episode 65.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
Man, like
The weather out here been really shitty this past
nasty.
couple of days.
Yeah, it's been nasty,
you
but
know.
you know, it's that good weather for reading. You know what I mean? It's the good weather for reading. You
Yeah.
stay inside, you know what I'm saying? You get
Yeah.
you a cup of coffee, fire, and then you read.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Which it's been perfect because the guest we got in the building today is a poet and an author. I'm gonna let you do the honors, bro.
Yeah, man. Today we're in the build. Well, she is a Sierra Leonean. She's a Sierra Leonean-American award-winning writer with a passion for people and poetry. Featured on BBC's World Have Your Say, World Have Your Say program, as well as the National Education Association's Do You Hear Us? And she is the author of For Girls Growing Into Their Hips. Listeners and watchers, please welcome Sierra Leone's own Hannah Sawyerr to Stuck in the Middle podcast.
Welcome to Stuck in the Middle podcast. Let me get rid of this, man. I'm being bougie. Welcome to Stuck in the Middle podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Dang, yo.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Did you find it easy to get here?
No, it was very hard to get here, actually. I got lost twice. I took the wrong exit twice, but I'm not the best driver, so we can blame it on that as well.
You just got your license too. You were
I
saying.
did, less than a month ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What you pushing, like a Lamborghini or?
I wish.
You wish that the point money not in yet. Poetry money not in yet.
Not for a Lamborghini.
I mean, hey, dream big. Your sister was actually here 2-3 weeks ago.
Yes, she was.
The CEO of Perk Consultants. Listeners and watchers will know that. If you're listening, please go check the episode out. It's on our YouTube page. The family is like, you know, just serial entrepreneurs.
Yeah. My other sister too.
What does your other sister do?
She teaches foreign languages.
Where?
Oh, wow.
She has a business called Speak Write Play. Well, she teaches English to people that speak foreign languages.
So like Esau, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, here in the States?
No, she lives in New Jersey.
Oh, dope. Man, congratulations to y'all, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what's up.
So wait, your family is just girls?
Yeah. So my mom and my dad, they have 3 daughters. I have no brothers. So it's all girls, and then there's my dad.
Your dad is like ting ting.
Especially Sierra Leone.
Yeah,
Every
man.
dude that comes to marry, then good. 2 bag of rice.
It's like
Not the
God.
small one that we buy here in the States.
Yeah. The big one like this.
The one that matches your height.
Yeah.
You know, she finds she see like you like this. They have to pay accordingly.
Gonna come through with 3 goats. You know.
Now, welcome. You here to discuss your book?
Yeah.
For girls growing into their hips. I got the bootleg version. Nah, I mean, so.
Oh, that's dedication, though. That's a lot of paper. That's a lot
You know
of
what I
ink.
mean? This man, his boss printed that joint. I got a bootleg version. I printed this out because I wanted to mark it up, you know. So I hope you're not mad at me.
I'm not mad.
I support her, you know. I would buy it. You know what I'm saying?
But now, let's get into it, shall we? You know, you were quoted saying, "This sanctuary of bone and curves, like in flesh, and nobody's but mine." Yo, like, what does that even mean?
I'm cheating, trying to look at the rest of it.
I see you. I see you like.
Don't be
peeping
trying to
and
look at
stuff.
the
I see you,
questions, yo.
like, peeping and stuff, like, just. You know.
It just means that, like, my body's mine. It doesn't belong to anybody else's. So I guess this sanctuary of bone and curve is me, like, my poetic way of saying that my body, literally our bodies belong to ourselves and nobody else.
How did you land there? You know what I mean? Like, because I'm sure some people might disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, of course, obviously. But
Religious, to be specific, might disagree. But, you know, saying like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did you land there?
A lot, like my experiences, just things that I've seen. I think a lot of times with young women specifically, people tell us we don't. I guess nobody will specifically be like, oh, your body belongs to everyone but you. That sounds absurd. Although I'm pretty sure there are people that say that and believe that. But I think there are like a lot of messages in the media and that we see growing up, and it feels like our bodies are for other people. Mm-hmm. So me writing that is just me affirming myself and affirming other women, and just, you know, saying that our bodies are our own.
Is that something that you feel like, you know, women have to do these days?
What do you mean?
Like, you know, saying have to remind yourself of that as opposed to just, you know, knowing it as a fact.
Yeah, unfortunately. I think, well, in my experience, I didn't know that for a long time. And even though that seems like common sense and it seems like something we know, I think for me, I reached a point where it's like, I had to learn it, and I had to realize that although this is something that I know and something that I can say, I didn't really believe it. And so for me, writing that's me kind of preaching to myself and just, you know, reminding myself that even though there are like crazy things that happen in the world, there are crazy messages that happen in the world, there are crazy things that happen to women's bodies and to people's bodies, that no one can take that away from me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's dope,
man. You're 21 years old.
Yes.
And sorry for blasting that out there, but
hey, man, you know, that's just for the dudes looking like, damn, she, you know, saying to know so that they can know how to act accordingly. The uncles will know, okay, she's our daughter, let's not mess. Then the young cats will be like, oh, she's my auntie, let me not mess. Sorry, go ahead.
What was I going to go with that?
My bad.
Well, 21 years old, right? And you're very vocal, like you out there, you know, speaking like you 45 or something, you know. How did this all come about?
Where did it all start? I think, well, I always wrote in journals when I was really young. Mm-hmm. So I would keep this green diary with this cheap lock, and I would write in it every single day. And I think I started reciting poetry and, you know, slamming poetry writing poetry and speaking poetry in the 8th grade. I didn't start slamming until college, actually. But I remember I wrote my first 2 poems. The first one, I always get them confused, but the first one was actually about church. And it was about how I thought the church was just so hypocritical. And I remember I performed it in church and everybody loved it. And I was like, this isn't what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm trying to tell you about yourself. But everybody loved it, and they were probably just happy that I wasn't like out in the world.
I guess they agreed.
But yeah. Mm-hmm. The second one was actually about beauty standards and like just hating beauty standards that I felt like I had to follow. And then I guess from there, I started slamming. Well, I started writing spoken word poetry. I didn't start slamming because they're different.
What's slamming?
Slam is competing.
Okay, got you.
So I started with Brave New Voices, and I did that the summer of my freshman year of college, and then from there I went on to be the youth poet laureate.
I mean, most kids don't grow. I mean, most kids grow up wanting to play video games or watch YouTube tutorials on makeup and all that stuff. Like, nobody really goes, oh man, poetry is this. So yeah, I mean, something had happened for you to get into poetry. So what sparked that?
I moved in the 8th grade. I moved from Somerset, New Jersey to North Brunswick, New Jersey, and I hated North Brunswick so much. I hated it so much. I didn't have any friends, for real. I felt like it was too white. And it's so funny because looking back, it wasn't even that much more white than the place I grew up. It just, I don't even know. I just hated it so much. I think it was actually like the school system too, because I felt like all my teachers were white and they just didn't understand me. Mm-hmm. So that's what really sparked my love for poetry, because we had a poetry unit in my 8th grade English class. And I remember I hated my 8th grade English teacher the most. But that poetry unit I really, really loved. And from then I started writing poetry.
So it's been always what you wanted to do, poetry, like as far as like be a poet.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, like, I'm always thinking about money. Is it lucrative?
I actually just read a book. I feel so bad because I don't remember what the book was called, but it was about poetry and the art of poetry. And he wrote, I wish I could credit him, but he was basically writing about how poetry doesn't make you money. Poetry will never make anyone money. What people make money from is lecturing poetry and teaching poetry. So that's something that I just learned, and I agree wholeheartedly. I don't think anyone makes money by just sitting in the corner of their room and writing poetry. For me, I want to be a professor, and I would love to be a creative writing professor at HBCU. So for me, I know that writing poetry for me will most likely come from, the majority of my money that I make will most likely come from teaching poetry.
So for you, it was just like the love of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I know for a fact you're not trying this, you know what I'm saying? Our white, you know, brothers and sisters, so people who, you know, you mentioned a lot like growing up where it's white, and so you want to be a professor, particularly at a HBCU.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah.
I mean, I go to HBCU. I go to Morgan State University.
Shout out to Morgan State, man.
Yes.
I just saw a picture online the other day. Y'all bread is molded. We're gonna get into that.
No, that's not Morgan.
Hampton. Okay, yeah.
I mean, I love Hampton.
my bad. They had to check that. But you from Sierra Leone?
Yes.
Your people, at least.
Yeah.
Have you been back?
No.
Okay.
I was born here. I've never been to Sierra Leone. When I was younger, my dad he was never with it. Even though I really wanted to go just because of the Civil War. But I guess now that I'm grown, I could go if I wanted to. It's just about money and being free because I'm a student. So I would love to go, maybe even as a graduation present to myself.
Why? Why you want to go so bad?
Because I'm from there.
It's home.
Yeah.
Does the Sierra Leone influence a lot of your writing?
Yeah. For me, you said how? It's so difficult because it's like I really am stuck in the middle, so I gotta. But for me, I think I grew into loving my identity in college because when I was younger, I used to like really hate that part of myself because, you know, when you get picked on when you're younger.
Did Wakanda do that? I'm just kidding.
I've actually haven't seen it, but
okay, then you legit then, yeah.
But my freshman year of college specifically, you know, you just kind of get, or no, actually in high school too, but you just kind of get tired of having to like hide who you are, and you know, you don't want to be ashamed of who you are because there's nothing to be ashamed of. And I actually wrote about it in a poem, like who I should have been ashamed of was myself, you know, just because like you have some kids picking on you, that doesn't make them better than you, and that doesn't mean that I should hate who I am and where I come from.
Facts.
Because y'all don't know no better. So
who is this book for girls growing into their hips? How did this book come about?
Well, I wrote for girls growing into their hips. I finished it in college, my junior year of college. But I always say I started writing it when I was 17. Because I wrote the poem for girls going into their hips my senior year of high school. And of course it's been like rewritten and edited and all that good stuff. But I wrote it my senior year of high school, and I told myself when I publish a book, it's going to be called For Girls Growing Into Their Hips. And that's what I did.
How did you come up with the title?
I came up with the title because I was always hippie. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. I wasn't always hippie. When I was really, really young, I was actually really, really thin. And then I hit 13 and it was just like, boom. And I just got thick, as you can say. And people used to always like, literally, like people used to like pick at my body.
What? Like poke at you?
No, like, yeah, no, actually, yes. Not like strangers, but like, you know, adults when you're young. Yeah, when you're young, adults will be like, oh, look at you.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Not like poke at me. That was a bad word.
Oh, I would smack somebody.
Right. But, and they would always like talk about my hips, and I was like, dang. So I used to get like really insecure about it, and literally one day I literally sat down and started writing for girls growing into their hips. And this is what it turned into. So I guess it really started for me just preaching to myself, which is a lot of my poetry, just preaching to myself.
It seems like you, like growing up, you were insecure about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Your hips, your color, and stuff like that. Like, talk a little bit about that, because you have that.
Who taught you different? Who taught you to hate yourself? Like somebody always asks me.
That's a good question. I don't know. I really don't know.
Do you think colonialism is to blame?
Colonialism.
I asked that particularly because you didn't grow up in Sierra Leone.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Because I remember when I was younger, and Gina actually, who was on the show a few weeks back, but I remember I must have been like 7, or maybe even younger. I remember I was crying, and I was like, I just don't feel pretty. And she was like, why are you crying? Like, what's going on? And then she was just like, she was like, why don't you think you're pretty? And I was like, because I don't have pretty hair and light skin. And she was just, like affirming me and telling me how beautiful I am. But for me, if I could believe these things, and I don't remember anyone ever telling me explicitly, you're not pretty because you don't have light skin and you don't have good hair. I don't remember anyone telling me that. But for me to be as young as like 6 or 7 years old crying about that, it must have been something telling me that, whether it be like representation on TV or, just like messages through the media, maybe even music. But I'm a firm believer that like these messages are told to us, even if they're not like told to us explicitly.
Who's this book target? Like, you wrote this book. Like, who did you write this book for specifically? Because, reading through it, can I say it's a lot of like the stuff in here is what you actually went through?
Yeah.
So who did you write this book for, and what do you want them to get from reading this book?
I wrote the book for young women, obviously, but I guess to be more specific, I wrote it for young women that have insecurity issues, young women that endure, trauma, sexual trauma, and that type of violence, young women that may, doubt themselves and their capability and all that good stuff. And yeah, I wrote it for women like me.
I want to ask you a question that I think I got from reading this book, because like when we got the book, the advanced copy, shout out to Stuck in Middle, man, getting advanced copies. I like that. One of the points are very early on, you don't say it explicitly, but it insinuates that you've been sexually abused.
Yeah. I think it does say it explicitly. To me it does. But all the poems in section 2 have to do with sexual trauma and me, working through that, and just, like my personal journey with becoming a survivor. And I use the word survivor, I don't use the word victim. So me, I guess, turning from victim to survivor.
Yeah. You did press charges.
I did.
So we probably can't go too deep in it.
How deep are you trying to go? It depends.
However deep you want to go.
Oh. I mean, I'm not sworn to secrecy. I think it's important to talk about these things, which is why I've made it a point.
Was it a family member?
No, he was a family friend.
Being that you grew up in an African household, and we thought to be quiet, we thought to hold our feelings in. How did you get yourself? Let's just use a couch for example. How did you wake up from the couch saying, you know what, I'm gonna address this, I'm gonna tell somebody, regardless of whether they want to hear this or not, I'm gonna tell somebody?
It was the summer before my senior year, and I remember I was talking to, because he went to my church, so I was talking to a woman in my church, and I was like, I hate him, I just really hate him. And she was like, why do you hate him so much? And then she guessed, and so I was like, how did you know that? And then she was like, oh, well, he's a repeat offender. So I think when I found out that he was a repeat offender, that's why I was like, oh, nah. Because, you try to convince yourself, like, it's just you. They said that it's not going to happen to anyone else. And, you're young and you're naive, so you believe those things. And even if you're not young, you believe them because no one wants to believe that they were, victimized. No one wants to, feel like, at the time, I felt like I was stupid enough to, put myself in that situation, and I used to blame myself and say that it was me. So for me, believing that he really wouldn't do it to someone else, or, you know, that it was just like a separate occasion and that wasn't really who he was, me convincing myself of that was because I didn't want to believe that I was a victim. But once I learned that he was a repeat offender, I couldn't take it anymore.
Is he put away now?
No. I'm still in the middle of pressing charges, so no. And he's I think I don't know, because it's been going on for a long time, but, you know, court dates keep getting pushed back. And I don't know if this man has money. I don't know if he's influential. I don't know what it is, but I kind of like not put it behind me. I just kind of accepted like whatever is meant to be will be. And so I'm literally just waiting for the day that I get to hear like what's really happening. Because right now all I'm getting are letters in the mail saying, well, this day is pushed back 3 months. And I get those all the time since freshman year. I get some letter saying that like the date's been pushed back. It's been pushed back. It's been pushed back. And right now it's like whenever it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So
what do you want to happen to him?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't.
What did you want to happen to him at the time? And what do you want to happen to him now? How have you morphed? How have you grown?
I think I've grown a lot. And I think the fact that I can even like have these conversations shows how much I've grown. But also just in the fact that I can genuinely like say whatever is meant to be will be with him. You know, when I did press charges, I originally told my father, and he wanted to press charges because, you know, and I'm thankful for that, because a lot of people aren't, you know, fortunate enough to have family that's that supportive. But I remember because he was a repeat offender and they didn't know if other girls had been affected, which they had, and we found out that they decided to print articles with like his name and his face on it. And they, you know, my identity was, you know, kept hitting, obviously, because I was a minor at the time. But just like even seeing that, and like I remember my mom called me one time and she told me that like his face was on the news. And, you know, just knowing that like he's already getting his, and like he hasn't even like heard his verdict yet. You know, just knowing that like I can literally Google his name and have like articles come up about him, and knowing that anyone can Google his name at any time and have articles come up, I feel like that's just the beginning of what he has in store for him.
Man,
so.
people like that need to be away.
I know.
Man,
I know.
it's crazy.
Because especially being a repeat offender, we don't want to see nobody go through that again.
Yeah.
The crazy part is, you know, his a part of the church, you know, and the congregation. Like some people in the congregation know that, like the lady, she says is a repeated offender.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how is it possible that, you know, he's still, you know, there?
Man.
I mean, I know, I mean, the house of God is for everybody, but at the same time, how aren't, you know, the other church goers, you know, warning, you know, family members, yo, look out for this guy?
I think, unfortunately, it was always like a hidden truth in the church, but people don't want to see what they don't want to see.
As you know what I'm saying, like in the African community, I think that's also something that we need to do better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As far as like, you know, like I was saying, when you said she's 21, I said the uncles, you know, I don't mess with, you know, and the young cats, you know, that's auntie. I think we fall flat on our butt in that regard as African community, sexual abuse by uncles to little cousins and nieces. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, unfortunate, and I think it's unfortunate because so many people have the same story. So 1 in 2 girls are sexually assaulted. 1 in 2 Black women are sexually assaulted. 1 in 4 women, period, are sexually assaulted. And I feel like, and I know the statistic for Native American women is actually higher than 1 in 2, which is crazy. But yeah, I think it's crazy because it's a narrative that all these people have.
Let's switch topics a little bit. The Me Too movement.
Okay.
What's your take on that?
Not too much of a switch, but
I mean, yeah. Yeah, what's your take on the Me Too movement? Because, 2018 came with a wave of, all these allegations coming up and all whatnot. So, what's your take on that?
I think it's about time that people start listening to survivors. And survivors, no matter what they look like, if they're male, female, young, old, black, white, it's just about time that we start listening to survivors and the stories that they have. And a lot of times people are hesitant because they're like, oh, well, what if it's not the truth? But one, statistically, it's more likely that they're telling the truth, a hell of a lot more likely that they're telling the truth, actually. And two, I think believing a survivor always does less damage than believing someone who potentially assaulted someone.
I think that's facts. Case in point, the gym, the disgraced coach. Because he took, I forget her name, to persevere, like, yo, like, this cat is actually a monster, for them to start listening. And in the testimony in the end, the judge was like, if only we had listened to these kids early on. Because I'm sure a lot of them came through the parents and it's like, nah, he's a professional.
Yeah, and I think it's a common theme with like businesses and corporations. It's like usually the case that gets people attention, you'll realize that there were a lot of girls that came forward before that didn't get that response. So it's like months, years, decades of like hiding these secrets and like hiding these situations, and it doesn't come out until years later, and it's like, well, oh shoot, like this girl said this weeks ago, months ago, years ago. So it's unfortunate.
Is poetry a tool for you to fight this? How is Hannah personally fighting this?
I think the word fighting is interesting because when I think of fighting, I think of like taking action, which I'm fortunate enough to be able to say that I've had the platform to do so. But for me, I think fighting looks like getting up when I didn't want to, or for other like survivors, it looks like getting up when you didn't want to, pushing yourself to go to class, to go to work. So at the base, I think that, but I definitely use my poetry and my platform to be able to speak about those issues because they affect me and they affect people that look like me. They affect people that don't even, they affect people that don't even look like me. So, yeah.
Did you go for therapy?
I did for a little bit. I didn't really like therapy though.
Why not?
I think healing looks different for a lot of different people. I've actually been to 2 different therapists.
So how'd you heal? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been to 2 different therapists. The first one, I remember it was I don't know who she was, but she was like, because I remember my parents took me because they were scared. So they took me and she was like, I think she has a good grasp of everything that's happened to her and she doesn't have to come back again. So it was like, dang, like, I think I do have a good grasp of the things that happened to me and, just reminding myself that nothing that happened was my fault. But if I came here for therapy, I came here for therapy.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, even if I don't have like, what she would say is like some serious type of trauma or visible type of trauma, like,
yeah, like,
you can still talk to somebody.
Right.
So,
you know what I mean? I also think, me personally as a Christian, I think, it's in the church, in that particular instance, I'm glad I don't know the name of the church. I'm speaking anonymously.
Yeah,
did a poor job of handling it.
Yeah,
that should be the
so.
number one place, like therapeutic. What I mean? Of harboring. But and also it's unfortunate that the church is where most of that happens. But colorism, that's one thing that you speak about also a lot in the book.
Yeah.
Again, like, are you comfortable in your skin right now?
Yeah, and I think it's been a long time coming. But for me, even though I am comfortable in my skin, I know there was a time when I wasn't, and there are still days when I'm not necessarily even just like in terms of colorism, but because I know that there was a time when I wasn't, and because I know that there are some days when I still struggle with that less often than before, thank God. But I feel like that's why I want to speak on these things, because I remember those times. And I'm not going to call it an obligation, because I don't necessarily believe it's my obligation, but it's something that I found the strength within myself to do, so I'll do it.
The idea though that, you know what I'm saying, like black women perpetuate colorism, you know, it's like in a perming like daughter's hair and things like that. You know, we've had those discussions. Do you see like fathers as well, like, you know what I'm saying, like I don't want to use the word promote, but you know, also perpetuating colorism? Mm-hmm. How so?
You mean like
in a family? Yeah.
Like
how you know what I'm saying, like you said, you growing up, nobody explicitly said you would look better if you were light skinned.
Oh, you just took me back to like the days of the perm, but like the perm in the box that your mom would sit you. Yeah, but I think that parents perpetuate it, but I think it's because their parents perpetuated it, and their parents did, and their parents did. So I think it's like, I think it, you know, if you look historically, like these things make sense, like. You know, historically, you know, having lighter skin and being favored, or, you know, being white and being favored. So I think subconsciously it's something that we have to fight. You know, thinking that being light equates to being better, or having straighter hair makes you better.
What's your feeling on women who actually use these chemicals to bleach the skin and all whatnot?
It's so dangerous. Like, even outside of like, you know, wanting lighter skin, which I think is its own conversation, and like there's so many things to unpack with that, but like at the very least, know for your health, because those chemicals are so dangerous. Yeah, no.
I think though, I personally would argue that the colorism discussion, especially here in the West, has had its course, a good course, and it's still an ongoing conversation. But people have finally come to realize, like, yo, like, I'm chocolate, and you know, I'm black, and I'm proud. I love my blackness, and yours, you know. So we see that a lot in girls wanting chocolate, man. More so, the girls have come to understand it, but not so much the dudes. You know, you still have dudes, you know, more infatuated with light skinned women. But in the continent, though, when I say continent, Africa, it's less so. Like, does it start at home? How do we you know, like further that conversation in the African?
I think it can start at home, but I think it starts with addressing history and addressing like the subconscious messages that we believe. Even just thinking about my experience and just being younger, and, you know, like I said earlier, just believing certain beauty stereotypes that no one even physically told me. So I think you have to unpack these subconscious messages and, you know, kind of ask ourselves, like, why do we believe that? You know, just studying history and like knowing like, okay, well, this and happened, so, and this happened, so this is a part of why I believe this. And so it starts from unpacking those things. And I guess even like just starting with just taking in like how evil these parts of history are, and starting with slavery, like that's a really evil part of American history, and colorism and racism starts with slavery, and, you know, just starting from there and just addressing these issues from unpacking history and subconscious messages.
If some light skinned boy now just come and say, I'm ready to pay that price. No, because like you are very strong opinionated in your book for girls growing into their hips, if anybody's just joining in, about colorism. First, you know, sexual violence, sexual assault, sexual, you know, misconduct and all that, and also colorism.
Yeah, and there's a page 52 where she literally takes the time to define, you know, what a female is, what a bitch is, what a HOE, you know, and all that stuff. Like, I mean, I'm looking at it. I mean, I was reading. I was like, whoa, okay. I have different opinions to this.
I got a lot of strong,
strong opinions to this definition. So wait, my question is, this definitions, right? And I'm saying you came up with this,
Yeah.
right? Did you write this thinking of what men say about women, or is it something that you strongly believe a woman should be in your mind?
I was really scared to publish this piece, actually, because I was worried that people would think that this is what I really think. Mm-hmm. It's a joke.
Eesh.
It's a serious joke, though. But
can y'all read it? No, go buy the book.
Read it.
Yeah. Go buy the book.
Oh, I was like, I don't know if I can say all those words.
No. Yeah.
But
I hope you should. Ho. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
But so I defined female, BITCH, HOE, fast-tailed, tramp, and lady. So I basically just took like what I think society's definition of these words are, and so basically I wrote it at the time when people really started calling, men really started calling women females. And just like a response to that, and so it turned into this. So basically, after every definition, after I define female, it says C BITCH, like in a dictionary. Say it.
Yes. Oh, you don't believe in saying it?
I mean, I wrote it, but I don't know what I can say.
You were just scared of.
Okay. Okay, so after I define female, I say C bitch. After I define bitch, I say C hoe. After I define hoe, I say C fast-tailed. After I say fast-tailed, I say C tramp. After I write tramp, I kept saying I see. I write C lady. After I define lady, I write C female. So it's basically about how
the evolution,
all of these words kind of
Who even
mean the
says
same
fast
thing.
tail? What's a fast
Old people,
tail? Like,
church people.
fast tail?
You fast? You've never heard like, oh, you fast? She fast?
What does that mean?
Never heard of it.
No, like she's fast, almost like she's a hoe.
Oh, got you. Oh, dang. Now this book, this poem's dope.
Thank you.
But
Do me a favor,
Yeah.
and just read page 60.
Oh.
Read it in character.
Yeah, read in character.
Okay. What I believe in. I believe in soul music, justice, rebellion. I believe in learning a single lesson from making multiple mistakes. I believe solutions lie in poems we dare not finish. I believe in kissing. I believe in swaying my hips while kissing. I believe in queendom and femininity. I believe in woman with a capital W. In Sunday morning services, I was taught Bible be kept under pillow, so I know at least in my dreams there is a God in me. I believe in God. God blessed this goddess in me. God blessed this heathen in me. I believe in God with a capital G.
Wait, what is that?
Well, you snap after a poem, man. You messed the moment up. That's dope stuff.
Thank you.
You write really, really well.
Thank you.
There's nothing more, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, like, just that feeling of content. When you content.
Somebody's
so,
like,
they
found themselves.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing more fulfilling
are.
to see a woman that believes strongly in what she, in her whole being, I guess.
What is love to you, yo?
What is love?
Mm-hmm. Do you believe in love?
I do.
She kisses, so.
It's so funny because I actually wrote that. Like I said, I wrote a lot of these in high school, and like when I was a senior in high school, and so obviously they've been rewritten and edited. But that poem I wrote my senior year of high school, and I remember I hadn't even kissed a boy my senior year in high school. So I literally was writing about like things that I believe in.
That's so sad. Not the fact that you hadn't kissed a boy before, but the fact that you had to go through sexual, assault before that, and you write about it.
Yeah. So,
dang.
A lot of it was just like things that I dream of in this poem. Kissing being one of them, and when I say kissing, I mean largely being in love. So yeah.
Have you dated since high school?
Yeah, I didn't date in high school.
She probably dating a light skinned dude right now.
After high school?
Again?
You're probably dating a light skinned dude right now.
I'm not.
Ah, shoot. Yo, look at her face. I'm not.
My first boyfriend was light skinned, no?
Okay.
But I didn't date in high school. I started dating in college. My first boyfriend was light skinned.
So my question to you is this, right? Your very first boyfriend.
Yes.
Did you feel the need to tell him what happened to you? Did you think that was a conversation you were supposed to have with him?
I didn't feel the need to. He knew because we were friends. But I didn't feel the need to.
If he was cool with it, then shout out to him.
If he was cool with it.
Well,
Did y'all talk about it?
When I needed to.
Have you moved on?
From him?
No, from the whole experience.
Oh, I was like, yeah.
Oh, somebody wants you to define love on Facebook. Before we move on from that,
Everybody has their own definition to it.
I know why they're asking, but the reason why I brought up the book, though, in particular, is because this one, you're very strongly opinionated about the stuff that you write about, and I found myself agreeing a lot and also strongly disagreeing. When you fill out the survey, like like I said, but this one sentence. That one line in one of the poems that, man, like, I just can't shake that one out of my mind.
I feel like I know what you're about to say.
What you think I'm about to say?
No, say it.
No, I want it for the fun of it.
No, because if it's a different line, then we're just gonna have to unpack a whole different line.
No. What do you think? What do you think he has?
Yeah.
He has
Sometimes the king is a woman.
That's the second one.
What's yours?
That's actually a popular saying. Sometimes the king is a woman.
Yeah, I ain't tripping on that one too much. But this one, I was tripping on because you said it's the one where you defining love. You said love is masturbation.
Oh my gosh! I was hoping no one would ever
read that line.
Oh yeah, yeah. I said that.
I see. Like, my biggest fear is being misquoted, but I know the poem that you're talking about. It's on love, and so basically it has 4 different characters, and so the 4 different characters were actually based on 4 different people I know, and so, or just 4 different people in my head. One of them is actually based on people that I know, which is the girl that you said who says love is masturbation, but her whole character, like everything she says in that poem, is very sexual, and so. I wrote it because love is so different to so many people.
Yeah.
And for the person that I based it off of, she's so like just out there, and she's so sexual. And so for me, I felt like that's something she would say, and so I wrote that. I was hoping no one would ever quote me on that.
I mean, that's the beauty. That's the beauty about poetry. You kind of have to sit with, the artist to kind of like, because that flew over my head. I don't know, but I'm like,
I
think masturbation is dangerous. Don't do it.
The certain people I give this book to,
your whole life.
I gave this book to, and I said, read, tell me what you think. They couldn't get past the 30th page.
Wow.
And
really?
They gave it back to me. They said, man, this is strong. There is,
that's not encouraging for
they're like, yo, this is strong. And I said, dude, yo, you're much older, but if you guess how old she is, you know what I mean, like, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, let me see that book again. And they go through it. I'm like, wow. I said, so what did you get from that? It's poetry, great stuff. So you didn't sense anything in the book while you were reading? Not really. I was like, let me get that book, man. I don't know how you read, but like Reflex said, reading the book, everything just pointed towards the whole
colorism.
Yeah, colorism,
sexual.
and sensual. Yeah, all that stuff.
That wasn't intentional, though, eh?
Like those 2
Mm-hmm.
No. Well, not just that. I think there are a lot of different themes.
It's a dope book.
Thank you.
It's a dope book.
You
You writing another one?
right
You
now?
writing another one soon?
Right now? No.
Or soon in the future? No? Why not?
Definitely in the future, but I just want to graduate.
I
first.
feel you.
Yeah.
What is it? What comes with being the youth poet? What's
Laureate.
that? Laureate.
Yeah,
What comes
twice
with,
too, right?
Yeah.
No, not twice.
Just once?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But right now, the current youth poet laureate is actually Muhammad Tall.
It's a yearly thing.
Every
Yeah.
year,
So
so-
what comes with being it for the year? What is your tenure like?
A lot actually. So you have the Enoch Pratt Library Tour in Baltimore. So you do a reading at, well, not all the Enoch Pratt libraries. I don't even know how many Enoch Pratt libraries are, but you have an Enoch Pratt Library Tour. I did about 5 different stops on that. The book deal, obviously, and there were just a lot of great opportunities that I got from the position. The national position, it's a national youth poet laureate program, and a whole bunch of different cities participate. So yeah, I got to be on BBC. I got to work with the National Education Association. I got to work with Teach for America. So it was great. And the point of the position is to have a platform for poetry and activism. So it was started by Urban Word NYC, who's like the national champion. I forgot the word they use. Okay, so they're like the national program. They headed the national program.
Mm-hmm.
And Do More Baltimore, which is the art and activism organization in Baltimore. I'm cheating. It's been a while since I've had to like say who's a part of it. So I'm just going to go in the front of the book where they put that all. Penn Center USA, the Academy of American Poets, and the mayor's office. That's the big one. Mm-hmm. So they create this poem, and it's a 1-year term for the top youth poet in the city. And I put that in quotes because like poetry is so objective, but the winner of the contest. And so yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Here in Stuck in the Middle, you know, we try to bridge, you know, two worlds and stuff. So, man, reflex. You say this better. Here at Stuck in the Middle, you know, try to bridge two worlds, you know.
This guy, man.
I was good with my lines. Well,
You're stuck.
Yep.
I'm always stuck. Always stuck.
When you hear him say and stuff, he's stuck.
Yeah. But
And all day.
in doing this, there was a lot of difficulties, you know, that came with it. You know, trying to put all these poems together to have a flow to make sense.
Yeah.
How were you able to, you know, pass that difficulty? How were you able to make this happen?
A lot of stress. Actually, I don't tell too many people this, but this book was actually supposed to be published in April, and it wasn't published until November, just because I kept wanting to redo it. And so I missed my deadline by a lot. But that's okay, because it's here now. But a lot of stress. But I had help from some really great people. Kenneth Morrison, who's my mentor. AJ Verdell, Professor Verdell, who actually wrote my foreword. She was my professor freshman year. She's a novelist, and she's the author of The Good Negress, if you guys have heard of The Good Negress. She sat with me, Professor Verdell, she sat with me almost every single day or every other day. And we would literally just have all these poems on a table, and we would be like, okay, this makes sense. This makes sense. This line, I think I should rewrite it. And she would literally just sat with me through that whole process, which I'm so, so, so grateful for. So yeah, just having like a really great support system was really, really helpful and necessary.
She getting royalties cut. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, man.
What advice do you have for, you know, the younger girls growing up right now? As we close this segment.
Whew. It's over.
You flew by fast, right?
It did.
Yeah.
Advice.
Young poets, young girls, you know, dealing with
Growing in their
colorism,
hips.
growing into their hips, dealing with sexual assault.
Okay, so that's a lot of different crowds. So for young poets, I would say keep writing, and even if it's a bad poem, allow yourself to write the bad poem, because you got to write the bad poems to get to the good ones. For girls, you know, going through trauma, I would say allow yourself to find what healing is for you. And I don't say that meaning like ignore the people that love you, because a lot of times when we go through trauma, it's easy to ignore the people that love us. But allow yourself to find what healing is for you, because it looks different for so many people. For me, sometimes I genuinely just need to be surrounded by good people and just good energy and all of that. So just find what that is for you and allow yourself to indulge in that. For young women that have like insecurities.
Colorism, yeah, insecurities about their color, black girls.
I would say that insecurity is a battle that everyone goes through. Even people that you think are the most confident people, they do or will, go through insecurity issues. And I would say that even though you may be going through that battle, just understand that it's a personal one, and know that even though you may feel a certain type of way about yourself one day, that doesn't mean that someone else can feel that. You know, like that's something that you go through personally. So if I wake up one morning and I, you know, feel like I don't look pretty that day, like that's something that I go through personally, and that doesn't mean that John can tell me that he doesn't think I'm pretty that day. So, yeah.
Man, perfect way to end, bro.
Yeah.
Still got my bullet copy. My bad. Go ahead.
Can I see your notes?
No.
How could people reach you on social?
Okay, so I'm on Instagram at HANNSAWYERR. I'm also on Twitter at the same name at HANNSAWYERR. The second R actually isn't a typo. My last name really is Sawyerr with 2 R's. I'm not really on Facebook. You can find me on my website at hannahsawyer.com, 2 R's. What other, like, oh, my email is poetnamedhannah@gmail.com. So yeah.
And we appreciate you coming through Stuck in the Middle podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's really dope. It's really dope. I'll show you one note so the people watching can see your reaction.
Okay. This is like a game.
Yeah. And with that, we gotta end, man.
No, I gotta see that.
This episode is brought to you in partnership with Perfect Office Solutions, bringing office space to entrepreneurs in the DMV area. Hit them up, let them know we sent you. Use promo code SITM Podcast. You get 10% off your lease. And we really, really appreciate you guys watching. Hannah, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
Yeah. AK, let them know how they can reach us, bro.
Yeah, as always, you've been watching and listening to Stuck in the Middle podcast. Don't forget to review the show on all our social platforms, SITM Podcast, at SITM Podcast. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel at SITM Podcast. Like us on Facebook. Email us for questions, comments, referrals at SITMpodcast237@gmail.com. Next week, we'll be sitting down with... Who are we sitting down with next week, Rex?
SITMpodcast.com, you go find it out. You know what I'm saying? It's slipped my head. My bad.
Well, next week we'll be sitting down with Lee. She's a marketing specialist and media correspondent, CEO of RawLee.com and Sheila Global Solutions LLC. Until next time, you've been watching and listening to Stuck in the Middle podcast again.
Sir. Hey, go pick up For Girls Growing Into Their Hips by the lovely Hannah V. Sawyer. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
Yep. It was Stuck in the Middle podcast.
Hey, we out.
Yes, sir.